Welcome back to the channel, everybody. How you doing? How you doing? It's going to be a special day. Technically, this is going to be a writing update channel video thing. I don't know. It's just gonna be a writing update for the NaNoWriMo thing. I think that's what it's called, the NaNoWriMo. I don't know. I always get the word mixed up, and when I explain it to people, they're like, "What?" So we are going to do that in this is gonna be like a longer, like basically a writing update for the month, and I'm just going by week of how many pages I wrote, so on and so forth, and all I'm doing is trying to write 50,000 words in the month of November. It's just what happens, and I'm pretty sure Brandon Sanderson is the one that came up with it. Could be totally wrong. Let me know down below. That'd be awesome. So right now, where this video is currently getting recorded is on a Sunday, the second week of Sunday of November. I had 3 days I was up north, so I had no time to write. I wanted to bring my laptop to do some writing, but when I'm with friends and they have kids, it's really hard to get some writing in, especially because it's like, man, I'm just trying to enjoy my time with the loved ones around me. So that's always very important to me. So week one is so from November 1st to the 10th, because of how it lined up. The 10th was like the first Sunday, and I got 17,000 words done in those 10 days. Granted, my aim was 2,000 words a day, which I'm very, very close to getting for that. And the second week I got to almost 10,000. So I'm at a total of 25,000 words. I'm at the halfway part already for not only this book, but for this NaNoWriMo thing. And I'm very happy about that. Now, this book is something I've been wanting to write for a long time. And when I tell people this story, a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's like The Road from Cormac McCarthy." And I was like, ah, crap. I didn't know that. And I haven't read The Road yet. It's actually on my winter TBR. That's coming out, I think, a couple days after this one. I don't remember off the top of my head. So, yeah. Spoilers for people who are going to watch the December TBR. But this book is just, I want to write about a man and a child, and it's in a post-apocalyptic world, and the child describes that she thinks there is a safe haven for them. And of course the man doesn't believe him, so he goes with her anyways. Obviously that gets explained better in the book, but that's how the story is for me. Now, like I said again, I've never read The Road, but influences that made me want to write this book is post-apocalyptic worlds, like The Stand mostly. The Stand definitely helps with that, because there's a lot of elements where characters are just walking and they don't know why they're going to certain places, but they're like getting guided there. And that's kind of how this book is in a way. It's definitely inspired from The Stand and a couple other post-apocalyptic worlds that I have read. And so I'm just really happy with those elements of just trying to figure out where this book is headed. And this is a lot different writing style than what I've done in the past. And I'm trying to expand myself as a writer to try and test myself to see, hey, can I actually write this style? And how this book is right now, no joke of how it's written, is currently I'm doing the present, and then I want to do a flashback on every other chapter. Is going to be a flashback of the main character, of the man. Now, they have names in it, but I'm just going to keep saying the man or the daughter or the girl. And with this, I'm trying to figure out how I'm trying to word all this stuff around to make the book more cohesive. And obviously for first draft, it's kind of just like whatever, I just write off the dome and go from there. I do the Gardner technique for literally every single thing I write, because personally I like doing the Gardner way. It makes me feel very free-spirited. Do whatever I want, write however I want. It's kind of nice doing it that way. And so when I'm writing this book and trying to figure out where these characters are going, at first I kind of stumble, but then you kind of let the characters guide you there. And that's what I really like with the Gardner aspect. So I've been writing that way since I wrote my first book. So there's that. With this in general, I'm doing pretty good. I'm feeling really good. This is the fastest I've written. Usually I write about 8 pages a day. So right now I'm writing probably about 15 pages, maybe. However much is like 2,000 words. Sometimes it's more. Sometimes I write, I don't know, 22, 23, or even 3,000 words in a day. And some days I write, 1,500. Like I said, this past weekend for it, I couldn't get it done. And it kind of bites. But you have to take responsibility, and I did try to write ahead of time, but when you're trying to write over 2,000 words in a day, that's really taxing on your head, and that's why I try not to do it too much. But in general, I am really enjoying this book. Like I said, I'm pretty excited to see where it's going, and I want to get right back because I kind of steer off sometimes, but I always come back to what I'm trying to say. When I'm writing this book and how I want to do my writing style differently, I'm usually more of a faster paced chapter turner, where every chapter is only like 5 or 6 pages, and then you keep going and going and going, and each chapter is kind of short, but there's like more chapters. So that's sort of how I have it set up. But in this one, it's actually like I'm on chapter 8, and this chapter alone is like 25 pages, and I kind of want to write it so they're super simple. Like each chapter title is just gonna be called like, just be vague, and it's gonna call it like The Trunk, for example. Granted, I don't have a chapter called The Trunk, but you know what I'm saying. It's like something like that, and I want that chapter to be like 15 pages or 20 pages, and then I'll do a flashback, and the flashback to be a little shorter, like 10 pages maybe, and then go right back to the longer thing. Because to me, this whole story is revolved around a man and a child, and I want to build it so they have very good character development, good growth, to have like that father-daughter relationship that I think is very good to see and written well. And I'm trying to do that myself with it. Granted, I don't have a daughter. I would love to have a daughter. So to me, how I'm writing this is how I would view if I had a daughter in this situation, of how I would try and take responsibility of it. So when I'm writing this book, I'm trying to reflect of how I would want to do things too. So that's really helping a lot as well. And then in the past, it's going to be like before this post-apocalyptic world, and go from there. Now with this book though, I'm trying to figure out just little avenues with it, and that's kind of the problem about Gardner, is like, how did these things happen? Since you didn't write out like a little story outline or anything, you get yourself as like, all right, I gotta figure out how to do this. But it's also like, well, it'll come to me. I'm not trying to be like a George R. R. Martin when it comes to these kind of styles, just like Patrick Rothfuss as well, because we both know how these two are slacking with their books. Like, come on. Yeah, so that's kind of how I've been approaching it. I have like ideas. I'm kind of just like letting the story just do its thing and then going from there. That's kind of like the gist of it. So those are the first 2 weeks updates, and I will go into week 3 for you guys, and then week 4, and I'll see you guys in the next part. Let's go. Artemis. All right, everyone. We are in the 3rd week of NaNoWriMo thing. I never know how to pronounce it. I swear it's like NaNoWriMo. When I keep saying it, it's like I'm wrong. So there's that. I just finished writing for week 3, and we are at 41,000 words. I tell you what, that was actually really exciting to see that. I didn't expect to actually stay pretty consistent with this. Usually I write about 1,000 words a day usually, so upping it to 2,000 words, especially when you get home from work, it's really straining on you, because you're like, oh gosh, do I really want to write another 1,000 words? And the answer is, well, no, you don't. Honestly, I was so burnt out, but I kept doing it, and I'm really glad I did. Now with this, like I said in the previous 2 weeks, the idea was going to do flashback chapters, but how the story progressed, that's out the window. Now, could I add that in later? Yes, but I think what I'm going to do is do small little dream sequences in the chapter themselves, of just little bits and pieces of the man's flashback, like of his past life. And I think that's what I'm going to do. Because right now, how I've been writing it is, I think there's only going to be 11 chapters in this book, but each chapter is going to be like 25 to 30 pages, sometimes even like 35 or 40 pages, because I want it to feel, it's weird to explain. When I try to explain this to people, they are like, what? That sounds really stupid. But when I'm doing this, I want to, each chapter, I want it to seem like a short story that's leading up to like the climax of the actual story, you know? So each chapter is going to feel like it's kind of like its own thing with the same characters, but like they're just progressively going more and more. And like I said, each chapter is going to just be called one title for the chapter title. It's just going to keep going like that. I want to keep it so vague for chapters as well, so you don't really know what's going on. And I think it's just a really fun element to approach it that way. Now, originally I didn't know how I was going to go about it, but now I'm like, wow, I really like this idea. The more and more I kept thinking about it, the more and more I kept writing it. I myself was very happy with seeing this progress. So I kind of want to stick with it, because why change it, you know? So right now, like I said, I'm at 41,000. I have less than 10,000 words to go. And I don't know if it's going to be 10,000 words left to finish this book. It's going to be really close. Originally, I actually thought it was going to be a 40,000 word book, but sometimes the stories just run away from you and you just keep adding more and more to it, and that's just what happens, and that's fine. And I already started writing down notes of what I want to add to it already for the second draft, just little details that I was thinking back, I'm like, oh man, this would make more sense if I do it this way. I cannot wait for that. Now when I will go into the second draft of this, I got a while for that. Right now I'm really happy with this. So honestly, I'm really happy where the character development's going. The character moments are going to be happening. This week is going to be really sad because some really dark, messed up things are about to happen. I'm not looking forward to writing it, but that's life. I have to write sad, depressing things because that's just what you do in writing books. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the 4th week. We did it! We finally finished NaNoWriMo. And I'm going to talk about it. There are some pros for this and there are some cons. The pros and the cons are kind of like a blurred line. They're all mixed together. The pros is you could actually get a lot of writing done. And I think it pushes people to get writing done. Clearly. The cons of that is you get a lot of writing done and it's kind of like it puts a lot of pressure on you to get this done. I can't tell you how many times this whole month I'm like, I have to write those 2,000 words. I have to write 2,000 words. I have to write 2,000 words. And sometimes it really would stress you out because once you write 1,000 words, like for me, I usually write 1,000 words a day, which is usually about 5-ish. And like, it's like 5 to 7 pages a day, somewhere around there. I can't remember off the top of my head. When you write 1,000 pages, you're like, all right, job done. But then you're like, oh crap, I got another 1,000 words to go? And it really just stresses you out a lot. Like for me, I felt very stressed, but the pro of it is when you would write and hit your goal for that day, you actually felt really good. You felt accomplished. And I really like that. It was always like a pat on the back, you know, every single time I would do one of these videos. I mean, when I would write for that day, I would always just feel more and more accomplished. Now, I did write a total of 54,000 words, and that was really good. Now, going into this, all I had in my head was how this book was going to start and how this book was going to end. Everything else, I had no idea. The original idea was this book was going to be 40,000 words. Clearly, it was not. This book also was going to have chapters with backstories of what happened in the past before the end of the world, and that did not happen either. While writing, I ended up writing each chapter. There's only like 11 chapters in this book, where each chapter is going to be like 25 to 30 pages long, and inside of each chapter is going to be small little flashbacks of the main character's life before the destruction. And originally I was sitting there thinking, oh, I'm going to explain what happened. But I'm going to be honest, I don't want to do any of that. Because for one, I think it takes away the illusion of what happened. To me, as a fan of film and reading, I kind of don't like it when I get explained and told how certain things happen sometimes. I kind of like the illusion of me thinking, how did this happen? Sometimes it's good to get it explained to, but most of the time, I prefer just not getting told. And it's like that for like origin stories, for like, especially with like villain origin stories, I kind of don't want to know. That's just me. So doing this, I decided not to take the approach of telling everyone, oh, this is how it happened. And I mentioned in the book it's a man and this little girl, and the man and this little girl are talking, and the little girl was born in this world. So everything she is seeing feels normal, which is totally fine. She is talking to the man, and the guy tells her there's elements of things that happened to cause this, and she asked what, and he told her, well, I don't really know, because we were told so many different things at once. And I kind of did the thing like the virus that shall not be named, where during 2020 we were told so many different things at once, and none of us truly knew what happened. So I kind of took a little bit of that inspiration to lead to where we are. Now, is this going to be like a pandemic? To some people, it could feel like that. Others, it's not. And I'm not saying, oh, this is a book based off of COVID. No, it's not. But I like the element of constantly being told, yeah, this is what's happening. No, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. And it really drove a nail through the head of what could lead to something like this. And that's why I like that the main character himself truly had no idea what happened. All he knows is he lost his wife and his own child because of what happened. Now he's 6 years later in this world that he kind of just wants to die, but he doesn't have the courage to like off himself. So it's just a fun story that I wrote, and I really enjoyed the elements of it. Now, writing the ending of it was really sad. I didn't realize how sad the book was gonna be. Clearly, how I just explained it already sounds kind of sad, so what do I know? But with this book, I really enjoyed writing it, and I cannot wait to get into the second draft of it. Now, with the NaNoWriMo thing, if you struggle with writer's block, I honestly would advise you not to do this, because I think it would be a true challenge for you. But also, on the other side, I'm trying to play devil's advocate because I'm trying to explain what are the pros and what are the cons of both sides of this. And if you have writer's block, this would help push you to get through those writer's block to write your book. Because a lot of people I see on YouTube, and I have a lot of friends that talk about, oh, I always have writer's block. How do you deal with writer's block? And I always tell people, there's days where I don't want to write because I don't know what to write. But instead of me sitting there walking around trying to think of what to write next, I just sit down and I just write. Even if it's 100 pages, 100 words or 10 words, at least you're writing. You can always change it when you are done with it. And that's what I'm trying to do with myself when it comes to writing books. But with this all being said though, I think NaNoWriMo is beneficial for people. Like I said, I think if you struggle with writer's block, this is a really good way to push past it. And that is important. I think this is a very good and fun way to write whatever you want, honestly. And that's what I was glad to actually do. It put my butt in the seat and write until I reached my goal. And that's the thing. I wrote this book with the intention of writing 40,000 words for a first draft. And I ended up with over 50,000 words in this. And that is awesome. I think it's because of NaNoWriMo, because truthfully, would I have done that if I was writing 1,000 words a day? No, maybe not. Maybe I would have just got to the 40,000 and been like, all right, we're done. But with this, instead, I actually wrote way more than I anticipated on, and I actually wrote this book quicker than I would have with my old way, which is fine. I mean, granted, it makes sense. I wrote 50,000 words in a month. I would have wrote that probably in about 2 months with 1,000 words a day, but still, it's just really cool to think about the benefits of this. And like I said, the cons is like you are constantly always thinking about it. In general, my full thoughts of this is I think it was fun. Will I do it again? Yeah, I probably will do it every year. I'll probably do it if I'm writing something, or if I want to write something during that month. I usually take like a week or two off before I get into writing. I took a week off of writing before I started this, so maybe after, since I'm done with it, I might take a week off and then write again. I actually have one more story in me that I want to write before I start all of my edits of the second drafts, the third drafts, the final drafts of like all these books I have now just on my imaginary shelf that eventually I'd like to give out to the world. My goal is to write and release one book a year. Starting next year, I'm releasing the last 2 books of my fantasy series, and after that, 1 book a year. And I might sprinkle in some novellas that include this fantasy world. In general, I'm trying to write different stories, different genres to really expand. And it's funny because this is a very dark book. There's a lot of dark elements of this. And I'm going from this, and I'm going to dip my toes into romance. And I'm going to write romance through the eyes of a woman. So I think that's also going to be fun because I get to push myself in seeing how I can go as a writer. I think it's just a fun element. So I think that's how writers should be. I think writers should try and reach out. To me, I don't want to write. I don't want to be stuck in the genre of just horror or just fantasy. I want to be able to write everything. So this experience was fun. I really enjoyed it. And if you guys made it to the end of this video, I do appreciate it. If you guys want to check out any of my books I wrote, check them all out down below. I have a video coming out in a couple weeks talking more about my writing experience, my writing journals, and just everything that the struggles of being an indie writer. And I cannot wait to talk more about it. But of course, make sure you guys stay safe, stay humble, and tell someone you love them. I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay weird.